Hey there, laugh your way to bliss, subscribe for uproarious jokes and endless hilarity.
Chad wanted to buy a motorcycle. He doesn't have much luck until, one day, he comes across a Harley with a "for sale" sign on it. The bike seems even better than a new one, although it is 10 years old. It is shiny and in absolute mint condition. He immediately buys it and asks the seller how he kept it in such great condition for 10 years. "Well, it's quite simple really," says the seller. "Whenever the bike is outside and it's going to rain, rub Vaseline on the chrome. It protects it from the rain." Saying so, he hands Chad a jar of Vaseline. That night, his girlfriend, Sandra, invites him over to meet her parents. Naturally, they take the bike there. Just before they enter the house, Sandra stops him and says, "I have to tell you something about my family before we go in. When we eat dinner, we don't talk. In fact, the first person who says anything during dinner has to do the dishes." "No problem," he says. And in they go. Chad is shocked. Right smack in the middle of the living room is a huge stack of dirty dishes. In the kitchen, there is another huge stack of dishes. Piled up on the stairs and in the corridor, everywhere he looks, are dirty dishes. They sit down to dinner, and sure enough, no one says a word. As dinner progresses, Chad decides to take advantage of the situation and leans over to kiss Sandra. No one says a word, so he reaches over and fondles her breast. Still, nobody says a word, so he stands up, grabs her, rips her clothes off, throws her on the table, and makes love to her right there, in front of her parents. His girlfriend is a little flustered, her dad is obviously livid, and her mom is horrified when he sits back down, but no one says a word. He looks at her mom. She's got a great body, he thinks. So he grabs the mom, bends her over the dinner table, and has his way with her in every position right there on the dinner table. Now his girlfriend is furious, and her dad is boiling, but still, total silence. All of a sudden, there is a loud clap of thunder, and it starts to rain. Chad remembers his bike, so he pulls the jar of Vaseline from his pocket. Suddenly the father backs away from the table and shouts, "All right, that's enough. I'll do the bloody dishes." Little Johnny comes home from Sunday school with a black eye. His father sees it and says, "Johnny, how many times do I have to tell you not to fight with the other boys?" "But Dad, it wasn't my fault. We were all in church, saying our prayers. We all stood up, and my teacher in front of me had her dress in the crack of her buttocks. I reached over and pulled it out. That's when she hit me." "Johnny," the father said, "you don't do those kinds of things to women." Sure enough, the very next Sunday, Johnny came home with the other eye black and blue. Johnny's father said, "Johnny, I thought we had a talk." "But Dad," Johnny said, "it wasn't my fault. There we were in church, saying our prayers. We all stood up, and my teacher in front of us had her dress in the crack of her buttocks. Then Louis, who was sitting next to me, saw it, and he reached over and pulled it out. Now I know she doesn't like this, so I pushed it back in.